Welcome to High Top Sports Network, presented by TGIF Solutions, the home of Shellhammer Atwood Agency, the Brad Johnson Agency, the Voidy Agency, and McMahon Brothers Insurance. Today, we're honored to be joined by a very special guest who needs no introduction, a two-time Stanley Cup champion and now the voice of the Pittsburgh Penguins radio network, the old 2-9er, Mr. Phil Bourque. Mr. Phil Bourque, thank you so much for joining us.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for that ramp up there. I'll be honest with you. It's, this is the 30th anniversary of the Penguins' first cup in 1991. And, I've always tried to stay humble, no matter what kind of success I've had on the ice or off the ice. But I'll be honest with you guys. And again, I very rarely do this. It never gets old, man. It never gets old being introduced as a Stanley Cup champion. It really doesn't. I never take it for granted. I never take it lightly. And it's always appreciated.
Well, we appreciate you being on with us today. I mean, this is really great for us. High Top Sports Network, we launched in September. You donated to us during that Freeport North Catholic game, your son Dylan, goaltender on that North Catholic team. So we really appreciate you stepping in with us today.
No, it's great what you guys are doing. All the best to you. You got that big white truck with the antenna on it, right?
No, we have no trucks.
Well, you have no trucks.
We're working towards it. All right, give us like 4 more months, and we'll have that big truck you're talking about.
Okay, man. We got to start one of those. What are those accounts called when people throw money in to help you out?
GoFundMe.
The GoFundMe. That's it. There. I sound like such a boomer right now. My son Dylan would just be ripping me up one side down the other. That's what we need. We need to get the GoFundMe going and get you one of those trucks with a big satellite dish, so you can broadcast all kinds of sports around Western PA.
Absolutely.
Well, we've been doing it, via the internet. We have a streaming service called boxcast.com that helps us get it out there. And our site is free for parents, people to look in on those broadcasts. And I mean, right now in this crazy time, this is we decided to do this. And I think it's been a pretty good success.
No, it's great, man. I'm like you said, my son plays high school hockey. A lot of times it's only one parent can go to the game. And so what's the other parent going to do if they want to see their kid?
Right.
And for you to offer that service is tremendous. Keep it going, boys.
Thanks.
We'll do. And we really appreciate the words of encouragement from you, the old 2-9er. So I want to get started just asking you some questions about the Penguins. Poor playoff performance this past year. What do you think it was like in the bubble? What do you think the Penguins, felt? I mean, obviously they fell to the Canadians. What do you think that was about?
Well, that's a good question because I've actually asked myself that question on a regular basis on why the Penguins lost to the Montreal Canadiens, why they didn't seem to have the vigor or the fire in their backside that you need at playoff time that Montreal had to take the Penguins down in that play-in round. I don't know what it was like in the bubble because we were broadcasting games in Green Tree at the iHeart studio, so I wasn't there. But just and I choose my words carefully here, guys, because I don't want to step out of bounds too far. But it just felt like there was a few guys that weren't comfortable in the bubble, that they almost like they didn't want to be there. Like they were there, they knew they had to be there, they were working hard, but they weren't really working playoff hard like you have to and want it more than anything else. Maybe some guys got in the bubble and went, oh man, 9 weeks of this away from my family. I don't know if this is for me. And that's all it takes is a couple guys. And again, I don't want to be putting words into guys' mouths. It's not like I heard anything. This is just what I was thinking when I was watching the Penguins play and trying to put myself in the bubble thinking, man, I can maybe understand it. If you just had a baby recently or you got, maybe somebody's health isn't that great back home and your heart isn't completely in it. I understand that. They're humans. But at the end of the day, Tampa Bay had a bunch of guys that said, you know what? I'm not answering my phone. I'm not paying my utilities at home. I'm concerned about winning a Stanley Cup, and that's all that matters to me. And they ended up being the champs.
Yeah. Do you think there's any questions about the validity of Tampa Bay winning that championship the way it was this year?
Absolutely not. I think I actually said before the playoffs that you should put an asterisk next to these playoffs. And I think actually the 21 also put an asterisk next to it, not only because of this unprecedented time that we're living in right now with COVID, and coronavirus, but just the difficulty to win. And that's why I think the asterisk to bring your attention that these are going to be the two most difficult Stanley Cups to win in the history of the National Hockey League because of all the hoops that you have to jump through to get to the promised land. I think what Tampa Bay did and the way they locked arms and to do it without Steven Stamkos was absolutely incredible. And I think equally it's going to be just as tough. You're not going to quite be in that bubble environment, but still there's going to be other hurdles you're going to have to jump over here in the 56 game schedule and the way the playoffs are laid out. Who knows, if COVID is going to hit a team and take down 3 or 4 of your best players, and you're still going to have to rise up and have a next man mentality. So I just think that this isn't easier because it's less games. I just think these last 2 playoffs and regular seasons have actually been more difficult.
Bourque, you kind of stole my thunder there. A good radio guy finds a way to segue into things, and you did right there. You talked about the 56 games this year and that schedule that goes with it. When you look at the teams the Penguins are going to have to face in a day in and day out schedule, do you feel like they kind of drew the short end of the stick as far as the competency of the teams that they're going to face, whether it's Washington, whether it's the Rangers, the Islanders? It's a difficult schedule, I believe.
Yeah, I never look at it that way. Even when when you get down to 5 games or less in the regular season, you're thinking, oh man, if we win this many games and lose this many games, then we only have to play this team. Hell, if you're a true champion, you just whoever's in front of you, you just knock them down.
Right.
And I'm not saying that in an arrogant way or a cocky way. I'm just saying that in a very realistic way. That if you really are a champion, you don't worry about who you're playing. They should be worrying about you, damn it. Don't you think Washington and Philly and Boston, all these teams, don't you think they should be saying, holy moly, look what the Penguins did. They're going to be frothing at the mouth where they stunk last year against Montreal. They stunk the year before against the New York Islanders. They should be frothing at the mouth to have a great regular season and roll through the playoffs. The team is built to win. On paper, we're as good, if not anybody else in the league. So other teams should be worrying about us. We shouldn't be worrying about, oh boy, we're in the division with teams like Washington and Philly and Boston. Oh, that's going to be a tough one. I say the hell with that. They should be worrying about us.
Well, you kind of said it there, worrying about you guys. What about the Penguins? Do you feel like keep them as potent as they've been in the past? I know that the core is aging, but what gives you that kind of hope and that kind of confidence you just described?
Well, I think what Jimmy Rutherford did and the changes. I always think change is good. Even when you win, I think you need to have change and you have fresh blood. Now, listen, I've said this before, so I don't want to sound like the jackass I sounded like last year before the playoffs because I had unbelievable hope for the Penguins.
Yeah.
Because realistically, on paper, getting Brian Dumoulin back and having healthy players, I thought we were just going to roll through Montreal and have a great chance to run through the East and take another swing at the Stanley Cup. So at the risk of sounding like a jackass again, I think what Jimmy Rutherford has done, he's strengthened the defensive core. Nobody can blame Jack Johnson again, right, boys? Because
right.
He's off to the New York Rangers. So you
That's
bring
right.
in Mike Matheson, you bring in Cody Ceci to kind of shore up your number 5 and 6 defensemen. You still have Juuso Riikola and Chad Ruedel, who are very suitable guys they're plug and play guys. I think to bring in some youth guys like Mark Jankowski, guys like that have never won before. I think when you bring in young players, you bring Evan Rodriguez back, who's an interesting player. I think Teddy Bluger is going to be better. I just think that what Jimmy Rutherford has done, gone out and Kasperi Kapanen, which is really caught me off guard to bring him in, the player you drafted in the first round. You trade him to Toronto, you bring him back again. So I think you've got younger, you've got faster, you've got hungrier, and you've brought in guys that really have never won before. Matheson, Ceci, they haven't been on good teams before. Kapanen, Toronto, they're supposed to be good, but he's way down the totem pole as far as ice time. So you brought in guys that were on teams that were either not very good or bad situations for that player, and now they're on a really good team. And so I think because you've got younger and hungrier, that should ignite the core guys that you talked about that are getting a little bit older.
Yeah, that's like Joe said, and you said the re-addition of Kasperi Kapanen, a former first-round draft pick here for the Penguins, coming back 6 years later. Your thoughts about that?
Like I said, it caught me off guard. I didn't think that would happen. It's hard to evaluate how good this kid could be because, as I mentioned, when you've got Matthews and you've got Marner and you've got Tavares and you've got all other players, a whole bunch of players ahead of him on the depth chart. He never saw power play time. In fact, he's got more shorthanded goals than he has power play goals. But you can't deny his speed. You can't deny his talent, his shot. I like that he's a scrappy guy, that he's fearless. You know, he's got a little bit of Jake Gensel, that he'll go to in him, that'll go to those dangerous areas. He'll go in the corner and come out with the puck. You're like, how did he come out with the puck there against a 6'4", 230-pound defenseman? He'll also go to the blue paint. He'll take it wide. He'll take it hard to the net, and he'll take a whack. So I don't know. It's a big question mark for me, but I like that they've already come out and said he's going up with Sid. Jake, Sid, and Kasperi Kapanen. That'll be our first line, and then we'll go with Zucker, Gino, and Rusty from there. And like I said, I dare you to name a better top six than that. Maybe there's some comparables there. They've got something good in Washington. They've got something good in Colorado, a couple other teams in Tampa. But I dare you to name a better top six than that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, that was my next question, obviously written down right here. Kasperi Kapanen solidifying the top six for the Penguins. I mean, you know, Sid and Gino, they've been there forever. Do you think they're aging? I mean, I bringing a guy like Kapanen in.
I know what you're saying. It's tough to say they're aging.
I don't like to say it. Trust me, I don't like to say it.
They're still exceptional players, but the number doesn't lie, right?
Yeah.
It's 33, Gino's 34, and you know the old cliche, Father Time is
undefeated.
Undefeated, right. So, you know, will their game diminish a little bit? Will their speed diminish a little bit? Yeah, that's usually where it goes first, is in the legs. And that first step and that explosiveness. But that's okay. There's been lots of players in this league that have played in their mid-30s, upper 30s, that have still excelled. And I think the one thing about Sid is he continues to get better defensively. And I noticed last year that Evgeny Malkin really watched Sid a lot. He duplicated a lot of things that Sid was doing defensively that made him a better overall player. You think about Gino's year last year. Incredible, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was great last year. You were so proud of the way he played, that he wasn't taking as many shortcuts defensively, wasn't turning the puck over as much, and became more of a complete player. And I think that's because of the example set by Sid. You know, you throw Chris Letang in there too, right, boys? Because he's the same age as Sid.
Right.
Another guy that maybe doesn't have the explosiveness, but that's when those players use this muscle between the ears, and they need to be smarter. When you don't have it in the legs, that's when you need to have it between the ears.
Well, you kind of brought up Letang, and that's a guy that we didn't get a chance to speak of, and he is a part of that core ultimately. He's kind of the player where you got to live by the sword and die by the sword. Whenever he's great, he's great. Whenever he's bad, he can be kind of bad. So talk about his effectiveness still. Do you feel like he's the kind of guy that is still truly an impact player on the defensive side of the puck?
Before I answer your question, let me kind of flip the script here a little bit on you.
Sure.
Tom, have you come to accept that Chris Letang is a live by the sword, die by the sword type of player? I mean, if you just swallowed hard enough to say, no, that's just who he is.
I think at this point.
Yeah. And I say that rhetorically because I already knew the answer, that I think we all have. I don't accept that. You know, Chris Letang wants to be considered one of the best defensemen to ever play the game. And a lot of people will say he is. And you're right. He has moments where he's absolutely out of this world incredible, where you just say, hand this guy the Norris Trophy. He's the best defenseman in the league. 2 shifts later, he does some of the most mind-numbing things that you've ever seen. Why? That shouldn't be. You know, I look at Nicholas Lidstrom, who was one of the best defensemen ever in the league, played more minutes or just as many minutes as Chris Letang, but didn't have these kind of mental meltdowns that Chris has. Now, bringing in Todd Reardon, former Penguin assistant coach, head coach of Washington, back with the Pittsburgh Penguins, has a great relationship with Chris, works with him a lot with video, and gets him to dial in on that consistency. Can they reignite that, and can they bring that back again? I hope that Todd can do that again for Chris, because he's got lots of hockey left. His fitness, as you know, is off the charts. But I think for Chris, it's being his focus and his emotions need to be all pointed in the right direction. And I think Todd Reardon can help him do that on a more consistent basis.
Real quickly, you bring up Reardon, him coming back. How big of an acquisition for the organization is it getting him back in the fold?
I think it'll be big, not only for Todd Reardon, but he'll help a guy like John Marino, right? Young guy that showed a lot of promise. Marcus Pettersson, another young guy, a lot of promise. You know, Todd Reardon, I actually played with Todd in Chicago in the International Hockey League. We were defense partners, so I know him very well, and I know his work ethic, and I know that he is tireless, that he will spend 20 hours watching video if he thinks it'll help a player with one play. So it's to be seen if he can reignite what he did here in the past, but there's no reason why he can't help Chris Letang like he did in the past. And also he's really good at helping out in the power play, which really struggled in the playoffs, right, guys? Against the Montreal Canadiens, it just seemed disjointed. So it'll be interesting on how quickly Todd Reardon gets his fingerprints on this team again.
Bourque, I want to switch gears here. You mentioned your playing career. It was a very long playing career. You played in several different leagues, played overseas as well. Kind of give me some, anecdotes about you playing in Germany.
Oh, wow. Well,
weren't expecting that question, were you?
Yeah. No, I had a bad climbing accident in August of 1994.
Yeah.
Ended up breaking my neck in 5 places and facial bones and everything else. After that, my rotator cuff and my shoulder was going bad. Had surgery on that. Blew out my ACL. Major reconstruction on the knee. So this all happened in a matter of 3 or 4 years. So the body was starting to break down. I still wanted to play. So I went over to Germany, and I could still skate, and I didn't get it out of my system. So I spent 3 years just getting it all out of my system. So people ask me all the time, guys, Bourque, do you miss playing? Do you miss playing? Hell no, I don't miss playing. 18 years, I milked my body dry. I got everything I could out of it, and being in Germany helped me a lot. Olympic ice surface, a lot of good offensive players over there, smaller players that can really dangle. So it's a great level of hockey. I'm so glad I went over there and played over there. It was a lot of fun. And the lifestyle was great. You play 2 games a week. You play on Friday and Sunday. Then you get a day off on Monday. You have twice a day on the ice on Tuesday. And I just loved seeing the country. I love driving on the Autobahn, going 145 miles an hour in practice. It was great. The coffee, the beer, the food, it was all great. And I'm so glad I did it.
Bourque, our producer, Jake, who was actually on the call for your son's game, has a couple questions for you. I'm going to toss it over to him.
Sure.
Hey, Phil, how's it going?
Good, Jake. How you doing?
Oh, not too bad. Just like those guys said, honor to have you on here on HTSN.
Thank you.
So, I mean, you got to see the youth level pretty up close. I mean, obviously you played growing up, and now you get to watch your son Dylan play. So what have been your main takeaways with how differently maybe the game is taught now, and just the specialization, not just in hockey, but across all sports? Do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad?
I think it's improving every single year. I think the coaching's getting better. I think the drills, especially what USA Hockey has done with the ADM, the developmental program, small area games, a lot of touching of the puck, no place to hide on the ice when you're playing these small area games, and you have to get better. So I love that. I wasn't a big fan of it, I'll be honest with you, when it first came out, because growing up in Boston in a bit of a hockey hotbed, I was taught you have to skate to play the game. So almost every drill I did was full ice that made you skate, built-in conditioning, right? But then I started teaching the ADM drills in the small area and lots of touches on the puck, and I saw how quick kids were getting better. So I think not only has coaching got better, teaching got better, drills have got better, but I just think the quality of play from top to bottom, and now you see teams from the Pittsburgh area, from this little corner of the world, are able to go to Michigan. We're able to go to Massachusetts, even go up to Canada to the big tournaments, and not only just play well, but at times win these tournaments. So a whole new level of respect over the last 10 or 15 years because of the dedication of a lot of coaches and a lot of players. They have the pressure to play football, right? But they choose hockey, and I think a big part of that also is the Penguins and the success the Penguins have had, not only in 91 and 92, but 09 and 16 and 17. You see that trickle down, right? It's not right away. It's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years later when kids see these teams win and go, hey, Dad, I don't want to play football anymore. I want to be like that guy there, like that Sidney Crosby or that Jake Gensel that just won the Stanley Cup. I want to play hockey this year. Buy me some skates. So you're seeing a lot of that. What Sid does with the learn to play hockey, giving kids hockey equipment from head to toe. I mean, the list goes on how many great things have happened in the last 15 to 20 years here in Pittsburgh.
Well, the big guy, number 66, he was
Yeah.
so, influential in me just even learning hockey. I was a baseball, basketball, football guy, and the big guy he was the
No,
best.
you're exactly right. I mean, those kids now have either gone on to college, but you look at a player like Ryan Malone, right? Ryan Malone, one of the first real Pittsburgh kids to make it big. He grew up watching Mario, and wanted to be like Mario. You listen to guys like Vince Trocheck and Brandon Saad and John Gibson. They all watched those teams in the 90s,
Yeah.
and now they're NHLers from this area.
Hey, I wanted to ask you a question. A lot of younger people only know you as the old 2-9er. They don't really know your playing career. And what do you think your impact has been, especially in Pittsburgh, as a broadcaster?
Oh wow! I can't talk about being a broadcaster without talking about Mike Lang.
Yeah, for sure.
I just feel right. I just feel like we're such a team that we're, and that doesn't take anything away from my relationship with Josh Getzoff that does a lot of games. But, Mikey's the voice of Pittsburgh, right? It's a hockey night in Pittsburgh. It's a great day for hockey. So I think that my impact in the Pittsburgh hockey market as a broadcaster is that I'm brutally honest, and there's times I drive home after a game and I kind of look myself in the mirror and just say, man, was I too hard on that guy tonight? Was I too brutally honest? But it's who I am, and I always try to check myself, that how would I want somebody, if I was still playing, how would I want a former player broadcaster to talk about me, knowing my mom, my dad, my sister, my brother, my wife, my kids are all listening, so I walk that tightrope of being passionate, incredibly passionate about the game, passionate about the Pittsburgh Penguins, but also being brutally honest. When a player does something good, nobody's going to be fist pumping more in the booth than me. But when they do something that's completely wrong and bad, I'm going to bring it up. I'm not going to look the other way. So, I go back and forth on just exactly who I've become as a broadcaster, but also, I still represent the crest. I work for the Penguins. I get out there in the community. I do all the right things because that's what you do when you're a Pittsburgh Penguin. I don't do it for any other reason, but I just learned early on, and Mario is a great example that, when you wear that black and gold, whether as a player or as an employee, that there's a certain connection with the partners and the fans and the season ticket holders, that you don't just rest on your laurels because you've won Stanley Cups, you've had success as a player or whatever. You have to stay hungry. You have to stay ahead of what everybody else is trying to do. So I think I've tried to do that and stay relevant in the community.
Oh, you've definitely done that.
Bourque, a couple questions. Did you ever envision yourself getting into this field? Obviously, you cut your teeth as a player, but it kind of evolved into what you are now. Did you expect at any point to get into the broadcast side of things?
Yeah, that's all I wanted to do. And
Really?
I'll try not to be too long-winded here. But when I was deciding to wind down my career as a player over in Germany, I got a call from Paul Kasuth, who was the general manager of Fox Sports at the time. And he interviewed me for the TV job, which ultimately went to Eddie Olczyk. And I was disappointed to not get the TV job, but I actually was like, okay, I just played 18 years pro. I'm going to take a year off of playing. Well, guys, that year off of playing turned into 3 years of no paycheck, and probably the most humbling time in my life, because I thought I made enough connections. I thought I had aligned myself with enough people in the game that I could pick up the phone and get a job. Well, it just didn't happen. For whatever reasons, it didn't happen. Again, long story short, I actually ended up calling Mario and just said, hey, man, I need some help. I'm kind of in trouble here. I haven't worked for 3 years. He said, meet me at my country club. It was Nevillewood. We'll have lunch. We'll talk it over, see what we can do. I was living in Boston at the time. He said, number one, move back to Pittsburgh, get your name out there, start networking, stay by your phone. 3 or 4 months later, he calls me, says, I think I have something for you. Go see Tom McMillan with the Penguins. Ended up, Eddie Olczyk went to behind the bench, right?
Yeah.
Bob Airey went from radio to TV, and that's where I slid into radio, close to 17 years ago now. Yeah. So it's what I really, I didn't want to coach. I didn't want to do anything else. I tried selling electric digital signs. I hated it. I tried rehabbing houses, flipping homes, doing all that. I hated it. I wanted to be in broadcasting. That's really where I wanted to be. And now I hope I can do this for another 15 or 20 years because I absolutely love it. Coaching would be fun. It would be great, but I like job security. and I love talking about the Penguins, and I love living in Pittsburgh. So if I could do this with Mikey Lang for a few more years, that's really all I want to do.
Again, you're a radio guy, and you just segued into it again. You talked about Pittsburgh and putting down your roots here, and that cool story you just told about Mario telling you, come down here, get your name out there. What about Pittsburgh has become so endearing to you? It seems like this is really home for you now. What about Pittsburgh has made it that way?
Well, I don't want to get too dramatic here, but I wasn't drafted. I was a walk-on. I was an invite. And so I borrowed my mom's 1978 Mercury Cougar, loaded a bunch of clothes in the back, and I hopped in her car and drove to Pittsburgh from Boston for training camp. Again, no contract, just a couple nights in the hotel and some meal money. And again, guys, this is what, close to 40 years ago. I remember driving through the Squirrel Hill Tunnel and seeing that skyline, which you've done hundreds of times, if not thousands of times, right? And I just remember seeing that skyline, and there was just this wave of emotion came over me, and I was just like, this is home for me. This is where I belong. I don't know why. I mean, I was a walk-on, as an invite. That's it. But ever since then, I've just felt a connection. And again, I was brought up in a house of tough love, and I think a lot of people in Pittsburgh have that also.
Oh yeah.
I'm a no guff guy. I'm a no BS guy, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I pride myself on my work ethic, and I think that's where that connection lies with the city of Pittsburgh, and they love their athletes to be like that. So I've made sure every year that I've been here as a player or a broadcaster that I make sure I donate my time, and I make sure that connection stays strong between the fan base, not only for the Penguins, but in all of sports, and myself. And I love doing media. I love doing stuff like this, DVE and the X, and being on the radio and talking about hockey. And that's the thing, the passion I have for hockey is the same passion that people who live here have for hockey. And I think that's where our connection lies.
Beautifully said. We're going to send it back over to Jake. I think he has a couple more questions for you.
Yeah, Jake.
Yeah, you mentioned whenever you were talking about how you got into broadcasting, you couldn't really do it any justice without talking about Mike Lang, just a legendary guy, the guy I look up to a lot in this industry. So through your time with Mike Lang, what is the most Mike Lang story you have for us?
Oh man.
One we're allowed to actually put online.
Yeah.
It's gotta be appropriate for
keep it PG.
Can't say that one. I know you're looking for something sexy, and I don't have that for you, but I'll tell you the one that just hits right here for me more than any. You remember in help me out here. Was it 16 or 17? We beat Tampa Bay in game number 7.
16.
That was 16, yeah.
16. Okay. So when I had rented the car, we ended up staying in Tampa after the game. And I had rented the car for the time we were there. And then when the game was over, walking out to the bus, and I said, "Hey, Mikey, what are you doing?" He goes, "I'm just going to go back to the hotel." I said, "Listen, let's go over to the Hard Rock Casino and have a Miller Lite and celebrate, because this one here is pretty special."
Yeah.
He goes, "You know what, Bourque? You're right. Go get your rental car. You and I are going to have a Miller Lite." And we bellied up to the bar in the middle of the casino. And we just looked at each other and just go, "Can you believe we're going to do this again? That we're going to the Stanley Cup final again?" And I remember like just that joy in his heart. We filled our glasses up, our ice cold frosted glasses up with Miller Lite, and we cheered each other. And I just remember like that moment of just the happiness that Mike had, that this was going to happen again, and having a beer with him. It was just a special moment. There's lots of other special moments in the booth. 09, the save by Fleury, and then the call by Mikey, and then those great calls in 16 and 17 when the Penguins ultimately win the cup, and all the other great calls he has that just have me just shaking my head and grinning ear to ear. But that one there, that special moment alone with Mikey after a great victory, having a beer, that's the one that'll stay with me the longest.
That's an iconic moment in your life with Mike Lang, who is an icon. And you also have an iconic quote after the Penguins won the Stanley Cup in the early 90s. He said, "Let's take this thing out on the river and party all summer."
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
I'll be honest with you, I don't know where it came from. But if you watch the video of us at the point, we didn't know that we were all going to be asked to come up to the podium and say something as they were announcing each player. I think it was Paul Steigerwald was announcing me. Mikey was kind of off to the side. I knew I was up next after Gordy Roberts. And Mikey kind of ripped me a little bit with his elbow into the rib cage and said, "Hey, Bourque, give him something to remember you by." And I had no idea what I was going to say. I was going to put the cup over my head and just yell something stupid into the crowd at the point, And as I walked up there, I just looked out at the three rivers at the point and all the people there. And I know what they love to do in the waters. So I just blurted out, "Hey, let's take this down to the river and party all summer." And now it's been a tradition. So for all 5 Stanley Cups at the celebration, I've done just that.
I have to ask though, did you guys eventually actually go out on the river and party that year?
Well, it's to add on to that story. I had a good friend of mine, Jim Boyer, who I bought a couple of jet skis off of. He owned a boat company up in the Trentham, New Kensington area. Ski Supreme, I think they're still around. Contacted him. He sold Ski Supreme boats, ski boats, water ski boats. So they wanted to make a custom black and gold boat, and they wanted to put it in the Pittsburgh waters. He said, "Well, I got a customer, Phil Bourque. He plays for the Penguins. Why don't you just give the boat to him for the summer and have him ride it around the Pittsburgh waters?" They go, "Great idea." So he called me up. A week later, they were delivering a boat to my driveway to my home in Upper St. Clair with a trailer and everything. I ended up, you remember Donzi's?
Oh, yeah.
So they had a dock down there. I went to Donzi's. I said, "Hey, can I leave my boat here?" They're like, "Absolutely. That black and gold boat? Absolutely. No problem." So I docked it at Donzi's. And yes, the cup was in the boat out on the river. And yeah, we did party all summer down on the river.
Beautiful.
Now you did some repair work on the cup. Is that correct?
Yes. I was the first guy, not the only guy, because some guys did it afterwards, which I was very proud to hear. Including Patrick Waugh. I just found out about a week ago that he also did the same thing.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I carved my name on the inside. I'll make this a short story. Took me 3 hours with a screwdriver. I put "enjoy it" in quotation marks. Phil Bourque, Pittsburgh Penguins 91 champs on the inside of the cup because I had repaired a nut had come loose on the inside. So I put a pen light in my mouth, crawled inside the cup to repair it. When I was inside, I noticed 3 French guys had engraved their name. And when they repaired it, they were like jewelers or silversmiths or whatever. Right. And so I figured, light bulb, if they could do it, I could do it. Again, I carved my name. I was the only guy to have my name on the outside and inside till a couple other guys did it after me.
That is so awesome.
Bourque, a couple quick questions for you. We'll let you off on these kind of rapid fire questions. What player impacted you the most prior to your playing career? Maybe made you or helped to carve out the player you are?
Yeah. Well, again, growing up in Boston, my favorite player all time was Bobby Orr. No surprise there, right? Yeah. I actually came up, if you remember, I came up as a defenseman. And eventually, my dad really pushed me hard to play both positions, which helped me get to the NHL and stay in the NHL and kind of made my mark more in the NHL as a winger. But growing up in Boston, watching number 4 Orr, that was the best, right? Bobby Orr. Nobody could do it like Bobby Orr. There's been some great defensemen and Paul Coffey and Nicholas Lidstrom, and the list goes on. But nobody could change the game the way Bobby Orr could. For me, one of the top 3 ever to play the game, and I was lucky to have a childhood watching him play.
I'll be curious if the answer here remains the same. It's going to be Boston Garden, possibly. But what was the best venue you played in, the one you maybe enjoyed the most?
I should have enjoyed playing Boston more, but I didn't have great games there, probably because I was so nervous with all the family and friends. I did love playing there, though. I love the small rink, the atmosphere. But for just nostalgia-wise, the Montreal Forum was just something special. Again, I think I maybe scored 1 goal there ever in my career, probably because I was out the night before, if you know what I mean. And Montreal, I'm sure you heard it's a fun town to be in.
It is a very fun town.
Yeah, but I just loved.
Had my bachelor party there.
Oh, there you go. So you know what I'm talking about. The old Chicago Stadium. Again, I don't want to give you multiple answers here, but those old stadiums. Chicago Stadium was special. Just they're right on top of you. It's so loud. But Montreal had that mystique, and it had the history and different ambience and energy in the building that made it more unique than any other building I played in.
Now, credit to Jake on this question, because I really didn't even think about this, but it is a solid question. Which ring do you cherish more? Is there, or do you kind of hold them equally? Is it like your children? You can't love one more than the other.
No, I actually I do love one more than the other. It's the first one. For the obvious reason, it's your first one. You know, that you never think you're going to win the Stanley Cup. You never think you're going to play in the NHL. You hope, you hope you're going to score a goal in the NHL.
Yeah.
Never mind win a Stanley Cup. But the reason it's my favorite is the passing of Bob Johnson. 6 months after we won, a little less than 6 months after we won. We win in May. He's dead in November from brain tumor. And so to know that we won that ring with Badger Bob Johnson, every time I put that one on, I think of Badger. So that one would be the most special. It's the smallest of all five. It doesn't have as much, glitz and glam and diamonds and everything else, but it has the most meaning.
I want to ask you a question. Did you ever have a nickname?
Besides the old 2-9er, of course.
Besides the old 2-9er, of course.
Yeah. I'll tell you a funny story. You've heard of Ray Bourque, right?
Yeah, of course.
Well, yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, Ray Bourque was drafted by the Bruins in 1979, first round pick. I grew up before 1979. My name, and if you talk to anybody I went to high school with, my name was Phil Bourque, and my nickname was Bourque my whole life until Ray Bourque got drafted by the Bruins. And because he was a hockey player and we had the same last name, that people all of a sudden, because they would look at his name and heard his name so much, he ends up winning, the Calder Trophy as Rookie of the Year and goes on to greatness. So naturally, I just get tired of correcting people and saying, oh, no, my last name is Bourque. They'd be like, no, you're Bourque, like Ray Bourque, right? I eventually just said, fine, just, call me. So I went from Phil Bourque to Phil Bourque and Berkey to Bourque. So
nice.
That's how that. Now, all my family with the last name of Bourque, they've also all become Bourques because of Ray Bourque.
Oh, that's an amazing
Crazy,
story.
right?
Never heard that one. That's awesome.
Yeah, crazy.
Well, thanks so much, Phil. I really appreciate you joining us today. It's quite an honor for me, quite an honor for the guys. Thanks so much for sitting down with High Top Sports Network today, and we really appreciate your time.
Yeah, I love the questions, guys. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, can't wait to hear you on the calls. We miss hockey as much as anybody out here, so we can't wait till you guys get back in the ice and get to hear you on the radio again. We look forward to it, man.
Same here. Well, we got about 3 weeks to go. Puck's going to be dropped. It's going to be a sprint, playing each team 8 times. The Flyers 8 times.
Oh, boy.
8 times. It's going to be crazy. Old school hockey, a lot of hatred. Listen, guys, I love the preparation you guys did for the interview. Great questions. I enjoyed this. I love what you're doing in Western PA. Keep up the good work.
Thank you,
if there's
sir.
anything else I can do for you guys down the road, let me know.
We really appreciate it.
Means so much, man. Stay safe here during this crazy time. You and your family, and best to you. A dad again here, the newborn. So make sure you get some sleep here and before the season ramps up.
And
awesome. Thanks, guys.
That was good hockey talk.
Hey, guys, I enjoyed our time together, and this was
absolutely
good hockey talk.
Nice.
Bless you, brother.
Thanks, Phil.
We'll talk to you soon.
See you guys.
Bye.